o e tēnei huinga, wānanga uki. Hei whakatoi te māreatanga o te maramatanga o ngā kaupapa ke mua i a mātou i roto i ngā niwa o te wā no reira e mea hui e. Me mini ana ki te kingi aku heitia pototau te whirawhira te Raupatu, me temo whānau me te whare kahua riki, pai māre ki rātou. Nau mai whakatau mai, nā kaimahi o te kaunihira o Waikato. Nau mai whakatau mai ki tēnei whare, he whare o te kingitanga, he whare o Waikato Tainui, he whare te taho o tō mātou aua o Waikato, kei raro o te manga tupuna o Taupiri. Ko rawa te kaupapa mātua, te mea nui o tēnei huinga, no reira te mea hui e tai ki e kilmatate.
E te whare whakahuki atu I te mihi tuatahi, a me wehi kia ihua nāna nei ngā mea katoa I hanga. A kia tau ana mana ki tanga ki runga ki tō tātou ki tu heitia pōwhai ki whirawhira tuku whitunu reira ngā mihi ki aia, tau tuku ngiana. O te reo tātou mate, te hunga mate o hinga mai nei I ngā marae maha I roto ngā marama tata ake nei. Moi mai rātou, me rātou e tangi nei I a rātou, kei te whakaro nui ki a rātou katoa o te rā. Tēnā koutou, tātou te hunga ora. Nehi ana ki te whare, tēnā koe Jaden mo te whakatau nei I a mātou te kaunihira ārohe o Waikato, o a mātou kai kaunihira, ngā ringa rau pāhuki, e koa nākau kia huitahi tātou, kia wānanga, kia putai ngā hua hei oranga mo te iwi, o te rā mo te taiao, tātou katoa. Ka nui te mihi, I runga I te ahuatanga o te poto te kakao te paipa, me poto hoki tēnei, no reira tēnā koutou, kei raro.
Tēnā tātou whakatai mai nei I tēnei hui, a tēnā koe Jaden, a me Roger, he whakatuwhera tō tātou hui, a tō Karakia hoki tēnei ata, tēnā koutou katoa. We have a pretty condensed agenda this morning. So we're just going to run through it. Thank you to the Regional Council staff for preparing our documents. So the intention today is to run through the administrative elements. Then we're going to go straight to the Freshwater Policy review and the correspondence between ourselves, which we'll just deal with up front, and then work through the rest of the agenda. The aim today is that we will finish by 12, lunch at 12, and then heading out to Lake Whangape for those who are available to attend from 12:30, and then back at around 2:30. So for those who aren't able to stick around for the site visit, that's a shame. And those who want to take their own vehicle so they can head off straight from the lake, feel free to. So just moving into the agenda, any apologies? We have...
Yeah, kia ora, Chair. Don here, just be ducking out a bit earlier, around about 10:45. Kia ora.
So is that for the rest of the hui, Don, or just for that period?
Probably for that period for about 40 minutes, and then I'll try and jump back in as well.
Kia ora, Don.
Kia ora.
And we haven't received any apologies from Jeff, but we will note apologies from him, and if he arrives, then note his attendance.
Just got a hand up.
Got it up.
I don't mind. Just one for the. I don't mind. One for the site visit. Thank you for the effort to put it together. So I can't say I can my front up here, but thank you.
Sorry, we can't hear you.
I think she said apologies for the site visit.
No, just putting in apologies for the site visit. I appreciate the effort though that went into organising it. But I'm an apology for the site visit. Kia ora.
Got it up. So just noting those apologies, can we have a mover? Yep. Jen, second, Hinarangi, all in favour? Aye, carried. So confirmation of agenda, There's nothing else to be added. We'll be talking about the correspondence first up. Yep. Moved by Pamela, I'll second. All in favour? Carried. Changes to disclosures of interest. Thank you, Don. Leah's noted the change that you've sent through. If there are any other changes, if people can just let Leah know. And then just moving on to the previous minutes from the 9th of April. Does anyone have any comments or corrections? No? No? Just one comment from me, and I have made it outside of the meeting. I find the brevity of the minutes a bit too brief, and there are some key elements of the conversation that we do have that the minutes don't capture. And an example of that is the agenda item under the Freshwater Policy Review, where we did talk about an option for the governance structure in the hui, but it's not captured in the minutes. I've raised this before, and I know that this is how you do your minutes, but I do think that there is good cause to note some of the key kōrero that's had during the meeting, rather than just referring us to a video recording that no one will watch. If we can note that for next time and for these minutes, it would be great. Besides from that, can we get a mover for the minutes?
Yeah.
Bruce.
It's in a move. Can we leave it to the co-chairs of the committee to note that they make those improvements to minutes, Dex, like in your fellas' approval of the drafts?
Yes. Yeah.
Otherwise, it might not change.
Like I've said, I've raised this before as a co-chair.
Yeah.
So I'm just raising it in the meeting so we'll get agreement that that's going to happen.
So could I hear from the Secretariat what agreed action is going to take place? Because it shouldn't be raised again. Through staff, through the chairs to staff, please.
So when requested, we can absolutely note formal action in the minutes. So if there's something specific you want in the minutes, we can let you know, we can add that in at the time, and everyone can see what's going on in the minutes. And then as usual, the minutes will come through to both of the co-chairs for checking. If there's anything you want to add in at that time, to let you know before we publish.
Okay. So it's really the key points of discussion. So it might not be an action, but it might be something that's said that's important. So we can note that with you in the review.
In the review.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But during the meeting, you'll hear the same things being raised if you can note those. Us.
Yeah. Might be, just as an introduce, might be good to check with the co-chairs, right? These are the key points you've raised, just to be helpful.
I'm happy to second. All in favour?
Aye.
Carried. Or any against? No. Carried. So that brings us to the first. Welcome, Jeff, for those who are online. Jeff's just entered the room. So that brings us to the Freshwater Policy Review. I take it that everyone in the room has seen and reviewed the letter, so I'm not going to go through that in detail. I will pass over to Donna though later on to add any colour to the kōrero. I guess just some opening comments from us. The team, as you know, have been working alongside the WRA and the WRC through these sort of concurrent processes, review of Te Ture Whaimana and review of the Freshwater Policy with Regional Council. And I guess tried to just roll with it, I suppose, in terms of the processes, the scope of those processes, and at the time of the Freshwater Policy Review being initiated, the scope and the timeframes were quite compressed and driven by the National Policy Statement. So that's changed now. And what our team have been experiencing alongside our representatives and other river iwi is a real, I guess, confusion or muddying of processes between the Te Ture Whaimana review and the Freshwater Policy review. And some examples of that confusion arise from the same people, the same consultants being engaged to run the engagement elements of both processes, the same names being applied to some of the advisory groups. So Te Tira Mātauranga and maybe Te Rōpū Mātauranga, so very similar, if not the same. And some of the conversations on each individual process being merged into a single conversation to a point where we're not clear what it is we're talking about in some of the hui. So for our team, we're really wanting to see a reset, which I think came through really strongly in the letter, a reset and a separation of those two processes. Now that we are able to define the scope of the Freshwater Policy Review and those timeframes to meet, I guess, our objectives, which from our perspective is to give effect to Te Ture Whaimana, to us it's the right time to reset. And, you know, there's some basic things that could be done initially to help with that reset, like changing the names of some of these groups. I think we would like to see a review of who's leading what between the WRA and WRC, and just be very clear about the fact that they're two separate processes. Our team can provide input and guidance on the who's in terms of the continued involvement of the consultants on both sides. I'll leave that to the team to provide some advice on. But I guess for us, we're wanting to see that reset happen sooner rather than later. The second element that I'll just touch on is the decision-making governance structure for the Freshwater Policy Review. And we've talked about this a number of times at these hui, and no doubt you've talked about it at a staff level as well. When the Freshwater Policy Review kicked off, again, defined or confined timeframes and scope. So at that time, it didn't seem possible to adopt the same process as was adopted for the Healthy Rivers Plan change. So the Waikato Committee and the Raupatu process. For us, that was a great example of co-governance, co-management and practice. And we've noted that at these hui several times that seems like a process that we should be adopting. We would like to see that adopted for the Freshwater Policy Review. So just so we're very clear, that's the type of process that we would like to see adopted, where we have, I guess, representation, equal representation at a governance level with our river iwi and at the advisory level. And I guess the recommending function of the Waikato Committee up to council and that need for council to adopt those recommendations, I think is a good process. That means that the Waikato Committee doesn't get minimised in terms of its recommendations. So I guess those are the two key things that I just wanted to put on the table and are spelled out in the letter already. I guess from our perspective, our key driver is to protect and continue to evolve the settlement mechanisms, our settlement mechanisms. And right now, we're having to defend the mechanisms rather than step into this is what evolution looks like. I think as part of establishing the governance structure proper for the Freshwater Policy Review, it gives us that opportunity to do that. So I'll just, those are my remarks, and I'll just pass over to Don if you've got anything to do.
Yeah, kia ora koutou. Thanks, Jackie. I think Jackie's covered it really quite nicely. Some of the bigger issues, I guess too, and I read the paper around, the pending review around the RM changes, so just adding to that piece, because ultimately the mechanisms, as Jackie said, they're paramount. They actually override whatever else is coming in terms of policy and Wellington, right? So it is the expectation, rather than going, oh, look, we're going to, amendments are going to happen under the Te Mano o Te Wai, but actually we should be focused on how do we give effect to Te Mano o Te Awa. it's a Te Whaimangarewa settlement as opposed to the other way around. Because if we can get that right, then everything else that falls out of Wellington will fall into place. Because actually, as a settlement mechanism, they trump anything else that comes out of Wellington. It trumps the NPS FM for freshwater management. It trumps any other national policy statement that comes out of Wellington that might have an impact on the overall management of our water as it relates to the Waikato River. So I guess for me is that how do we change the languaging around the plans to implement and give effect to Te Whaimanga and as a result improvements to the overall housing wellbeing but river and our waterways more generally. So it feels like it's quite reactive. All of the work is reactive to the RMA and the pending amendments, but actually we should be proactive and implementing the settlement. It just goes off the back of what Jackie's already said. I feel that's probably the better lens. And I think if we would have done that right at the get-go from our settlement implementation, it would have solved all of these other issues that we're dealing with right now. Particularly because, you know, things change with the whim of government, but actually the settlement's very clear on what we're supposed to do, and it gives us better certainty around what our obligations are moving forward. So I think that's probably the only other bit to add, Madam Chair.
Okay, over to
Okay. Okay, thank you very much, Madam Co-Chair. Thank you for raising this first up. Always good to, as you say, rip the Band-Aid off. Start a short week. No, really appreciate it, and do appreciate the letter. I think that so often concerns that we might have can at times stay in the background and don't get addressed. They don't get talked about. We don't have opportunity to ensure that there's shared awareness of concerns, that there are shared understandings of where what the base is of those concerns. So I do appreciate the letter and appreciate the opportunity today to speak to this and to try and map out our way going forward. That's really important. And as I'm sure you're well aware of this, it's not the only letter that we have received as WRC. And so we are looking at how we can collectively address as much as possible the shared concerns, noting that everybody is always going to have their individual lens that they apply across these things. So just noting that. So I suppose that if I could go to Tracy or who would like to speak to how we're going to officially respond and what.
Yep.
Kia ora koutou. For those who don't know me, I'm Tracy May, the Director of Science Policy and Information at the Regional Council. But this week, for my sins, I'm also the Acting Chief Executive, so just quite special. Firstly, I'd just like to, I guess, reiterate Chair Pamela's comments. It was great to get the letter. There was some work to do. We had a good hui with the staff of River Settlement Iwi at the beginning of May, which was a really good opportunity to check in because we had all been, as Donna said, Madam Co-Chair, Jackie, that we'd all been so busy focused on this pressure cooker timeline that we previously had. We had signalled already to our council that we were not going to meet that just for meeting a timeline's sake, because again, as Donna's pointed out, the rivers are important, both the Waikato, Waipai and other rivers. We are in an incredibly privileged position to have Te Ture Whainanga. It is what we remind the government the very first thing of any of our submissions to the reforms. It is the primary direction setting document, and for us, that is imperative and has been hardwired into the process. The letter for co-chair said we have received them from three of the other review. We're presently just awaiting the letter from Te Wharetoa. We understand will be shortly. And talking with Chris McKay, our Chief Executive, last week, Chris suggested that it might be helpful, also bearing in mind what Co-Chair Jackie said at the start, as a result of the brevity of our minutes, to actually record in a recommendation that the committee is seeking some action where that is directed and asked of our Chief Executives, Chris and Donna, to further the, I guess, the desires that are laid down in the letter, and to perhaps put some time-bound manner around that, so we are understanding of the importance, and also to, as you mentioned, Co-Chair Jackie, for that to be part of the project recent. For those who aren't aware, I saw through with some of our other councillors online the Health Rivers Waikato project. So I was lucky enough to be working with the team on that from 2011. We're still working on it. It's taking more time than I think we ever envisaged. But as Councillor Mahuta always reminded me, it's a 150-year journey. We've got another 150 to go. Madam Co-Chair.
Councillor Mahuta, I see you've got your hand up.
Tracy, for the update. So just checking in on the, happy to move the report, but what suite of actions we'll see through, I guess, what we're hearing from River Iwi. One of mine is at a governance level to the chair and the rest of the elected members. The conversation around Healthy Rivers was where council accepted the recommendation of that subcommittee, or it referred it back to that subcommittee. That type of delegations in the governance space, and I think we need to hear from River Iwi that that's the type of commitment they are going to show to the process, but we have to take that back in because we don't run any of our committees that way at the moment. So just note that here in the conversation. That would be unique, and it's a conversation I think we need to take back to council as soon as possible. Kia ora.
Good, thanks for raising that, Councillor. You do note correctly that that's not the current situation with any of our other committees. So we will need to work our council through that. And so just ask for some understanding of that process that we're going to take people through.
I guess from this committee, though, at least from our side, we're very clear that that's what we want. Yeah. So it would be good to note that we're clear that we are looking for a co-management, co-governance decision-making process, like what was adopted for the Healthy Rivers Plan Change and the Wilder Committee Te Roku Hautu. So we're clear. And if that action could be taken from the committee to work that through your councillors, sure, that would be one action. We've just some other actions, and Don's looking for your help on this. So for the CEs to work together to give effect to that clear separation of the Freshwater Plan Change and Te Ture Whaimanga. And that might include things like just changing the names, switching out consultants, that type of thing, but we can leave that to the CEs to work through. What sort of time frame would you like to put on that?
Chris back. Next week. Good. We can do it in
At the end of June?
Yeah, give an update.
Yep.
Maybe even if we do a written update.
Yep.
to the committee. Will we recommend it? You got that, Liam?
I'm writing it down. My Microsoft Word's crashed, so handwriting at the moment, but I've written it down.
Okay.
By the end of, so the CEs to work together to effect the clear separation of the freshwater plan change and Te Ture Whaimana review and report back by the end of June.
I'm just thinking through that reporting back. Because this committee won't meet by the end of June. So
We can have an offline.
just wanting to,
Through you and co-chair, I think that as John said, we can work through the mechanics of it, we can give an update. Should need be, we can always call an extraordinary meeting if we have to, or an informal meeting. I anticipate that we'll be having the same conversation 4 times over, and the strength of Te Rōpū Hautu, which was the technical working group, and the health as well, the committee, was that we had the one conversation for in the room. Just something I would like to let the joint committee know and remind our WRC councillors we did put a freshwater committee in when we put our committees together in November 2022 as a placeholder. So we said there will be something. At that time, we had no idea what that might be, what it might look like, how it might be constituted. So just letting you know that we'd always envisaged something, and there is a placeholder in our committee structure.
I like the ambitious nature of our time frame. I'm just a little concerned about it. I'm just, you know, I mean, I don't want to set unrealistic
I think that separation is not to me, that's not a difficult thing. It's, you know, considering, do we change the names? What's our view on the same consultants running both processes? And I guess for regional council, there might be some contractual elements that limit things. And then just, I guess, sending clear direction to your consultants around the expectation that these hui aren't run at the same time, at the same place, on the same day as your other things. So I don't think it's that hard.
No, it's enough data, even if it's not final, you know. It's certainly progress report. So that momentum stays up. Yeah, and I think that report could go to the co-chairs would be the way of getting things done without needing recording.
Yeah, I didn't even anticipate a hui unless there was an issue that right.
Yeah, exactly. But the update can go to the co-chairs.
Just through the co-chairs, one thing that I've been thinking about since we had the hui and subsequent to the letter, actually a one-pager that clearly states what the review of Te Ture Whaimana is and what the review of Freshwater Policy review is, because we are also getting a few others who are meshing things together. It was never our intent to do that, unfortunately, because of the small pool of professionals in the country that has got tangled, but something where we can quite easily help people understand the separation. It's part of the update.
I think so long as by providing that we're not compounding the regional council or leaving both.
Yeah.
You know, I think I go back to the original. I think if we had focused on the implementation of Te Ture Whaimana, then it'll naturally flow, then everything else falls into place. So the freshwater policy should really just align itself, or a little bit part of it. And then the review for Te Ture Whaimana will just be the direction of the. So I don't know, maybe it's been supposed to be but in my mind it seems like the most practical way.
And ideally the Te Ture Whaimana review would be done. Then
And it's just a should all automatically align if that's embedded.
So we've got the first part of the action.
So we've got the motion on the table is that the report be received. So given that that's what you have on the table, you can receive the report and the follow-up can be an action, not the resolution.
Well, there's a few things,
Yeah.
So we
I
haven't
was
even
happy to
got
move.
to the report yet, we're talking about a correspondence. Yep. So I think
no,
that needs to be,
actually down.
no, I think that needs to be the item.
We can to add the resolution to, I just think we really need to think about what is a resolution so that the rest of our council receives that wording and has to discuss that resolution being noted by them, versus an action, which is very, it's good for being followed up on, but it doesn't send a message to our council. So just get them separate.
Just going to seek some clarification from Marley.
So there's, I think we've only really discussed one part.
Yeah.
And that's the action on the CEs.
Yeah.
So I think we did talk about recommendation to note, at least our perspective. It would be great if it's the whole committee's perspective, and I would like to guess that. That we would like to see a healthy waters plan change, co-governance, co-management structure adopted for the freshwater policy review.
If that's the resolution by the committee, we could consider that as a resolution, Jackie.
Yeah, I just want to, we need to get words up on the screen so that everybody sees what, because whether it's an action, we need to be clear on the words of the action. Whether it's a resolution, we need to be clear on the words.
So we can get the words in the resolution, right?
Marley, just a suggestion, how about I put together some wording and you carry on your core level and then we can come back to it and put it up.
Great suggestion.
Yeah. All right, so shall we go on to talk through the rest of the report then?
Talk through the report.
The report, yeah.
And happy to convene if the regional council members need to talk about the resolution that would.
We'll get Molly working in the background with some fabulous words. And but we'll Peter and Tracy, I suppose, to take us through the report while that's happening in the background, and then we might adjourn just to make sure our minutes are everybody's happy with.
I could add quickly, I just want to acknowledge the challenge around framing, because we within our council also have this tussle between our focus amongst a lot of councillors of central government has told us to do this and to do our legislative thing. Yeah. And then there's the actually the chair brings up a lot of the time the greater purpose of the council and the achieving of the objectives that have been set, which might not align with that central government direction. So we should put that above all. And so that's what Donna was saying before. But it's something that we have constant conversations about. And it's good for this to challenge us again as to the framing, since words lead to, well, thoughts lead to words, leads to actions, leads to action. So I'm very mindful that our framing is often still the way we've always done it. I'm always keen to innovate to get their outcomes.
And I think it's the reminder that Te Ture Whaimana trumps all of that.
Yeah.
Although it's not, I don't even think it's a framing thing. It's just a reminder that this is where it sits within the hierarchy. And that's been adopted by central government.
And it's not legislative teeth, which is actually the most components that you need.
Just mindful, Tracy's reminded us of the region being wider than the area covered by that. We then fall back into old habits, with the other parts of the area that don't have that. But it's a good conversation to have, and we'll keep. I'm keen to keep us on that to get it into the right framing so that we're in the right mindset to look at things in the right way. Yeah.
I think though the principles apply generally to the region.
That's what Bruce keeps saying.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
one's got teeth and the other it's just got one more ethics.
Yeah, that's right. And you know,
Well,
that's the leadership piece.
thank you. Appreciate that.
Good, Peter.
Kia ora tātou, Peter Wishart's my name. I'm the water policy team. that sits under Tracy. So if I can just speak to my report, I hope that most of it's been read, if I stick to the high points and what have you, given the time. So the purpose of the report is just to give an update on where the what's happening down in Wellington, what's happening at our place here in the Waikato, and an update on PC1 and the coastal plan. Perhaps I did deal with those last 2 points first. So as we're aware, Plan 21, it's gone through the hearing process, and we await the Environment Court's decision, which possibly may occur by the middle of this year, but that remains to be seen. In terms of the Waikato Regional Coastal Plan, further submissions have been called for. The submission period is closed, and we now await setting of the date for the commencement of the proposed regional coastal plan. Probably or in terms of what's happening in Wellington, and I really tautoko the comments about Te Turi Whainana. We certainly see that the government is very conscious and aware of the importance of Te Turi Whainana. We even see it in the fast track bill, section 7. It's right up there. So that is, I think, I guess, and I won't speak any further about the fast track bill. In terms of the recent introduction on the 23rd of May of the Resource Management, Freshwater and Other Matters Amendment Bill, again, we are looking at what has been undertaken in regard to the obligations in terms of the resource consenting process around the application and the consideration of the hierarchy and Te Turi Whānau. Of course, regional council will still be obligated to continue to give effect to the NPSFM 2020 through the policy statements and plans. How this is all going to play out, of course, remains to be seen, but the select committee process has commenced in terms of that bill. So we'll just have to see how that works in terms of the submissions and decisions. So again, just reiterating how important that council sees Te Turi Whainana, the fact that it's been recognised in other legislation, and it remains as the main directive setting instrument for the Waikato and Waipa catchment. Given the timeframes, we're also going to see probably some overlaps around the PC1, Te Turi Whainana, and the RM review process. In terms of the RM review process, I would draw you to the table that was put together by Tracy. Thank you, Tracy. In terms of how that's going to play out in terms of the various phases. Of course, we've gone through the repeal of the legislation back in the day by the previous government. We have the fast track approval process, which is now going through its process, and indeed the bill. By the end of this year, of course, we're expecting another bill, and then I guess a great big omnibus bill in terms of phase 3. Then co-chairs, I'll probably leave it there. Happy to field any questions that people might wish to put to either myself or Tracy. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the report. Just open it up for any questions from members. No? Nothing online. Okay, with that, the recommendation is that we receive the report. I can get rid of it. Tupper, yep. Oh, we're talking about two separate things.
Two separate things, yeah.
Yeah, she made both.
Oh, both.
Yeah,
She said.
Happy to move.
Yeah. Okay, can we get a seconder?
But hang on a second. Yeah,
Same one if you like.
I'll just get Marley to share her screen. She's just going to share what she's prepared.
So Leah, we're talking about two separate things. Yes. So
we could take them as two. We could take them as two separate motions.
Yes.
So.
So the
we're
first
just
is
doing
the report, page 2.
Yeah,
that we received this report. Moved by Tipper, second by Hinarangi. All in favour?
Aye.
Carried.
Right.
Right, let me just share my screen. And we can amend. We'll take what people have come up with and then we can refine it if that's not the right what you're after. So these two pieces here. The first relates to the establishment of a pay governance committee with equal membership from council and river, and it's drafted as a recommendation from this co-governance committee for you to give a look at and consider. Essentially, this committee will be tasked with joint decision making in accordance with the Waikato and Waikato settlements. If you'd like me to put in the specific legislation and clauses, you just have to give me a little bit more time to find them. But give a look if this is the general intent of this decision that we'd like to make, then I can extract those specific clauses from the river settlement.
If I could ask a question, I'll boost the font on that just more and more for me. I'm really focusing.
I can just ask a question of Tracy while that's being increased. Is this not effectively what was intended by the Freshwater Committee that we've had the placeholder for? I mean, I realise the terms of reference might not have been finalised. A long time ago now and started the training, but I believe. Well, that was a bit wider, wasn't it? It was beyond Waikato.
Yeah, I suppose that's one of the things that's coming to mind when I look at this is how
Is the separate
how this then interacts with our relationships with our other iwi partners across the region and not wanting to, I suppose,
create a motion that then creates more work on top of
or other than work, I'm just conscious of that words have impact on people. And I'm just wanting to make sure that we take adequate time in considering this, that we particularly as WRC are cognizant of of the myriad of relationships we have. And
Is it a re-establishment rather than just it looks new?
Yeah.
This
This is a new approach.
Yeah, it's not a new one. It's
Yeah, because we did have the Rivers Wairora
committee
last training.
So if I can help the committee, so we had Healthy Rivers Wairora Committee up until the training before this council, where the terms of reference, which Coach Jackie was talking about in terms of the recommendation had changed to just a monitoring committee as we were going through the appeals process. So we moved away from that recommendation and decision making up to council because of where we were in the process. And the Healthy Rivers Wairora Committee ceased as a committee of our council this training. We put the Freshwater Committee in as a placeholder, noting that it could look like it could be 7 separate committees, 1 committee or potentially 3 committees, noting we've got River Settlement iwi, Te Kotahitanga and Parihauraki as iwi of the region. To respond to Councillor Nichols' question, we had always hoped that we would repeat and emulate Healthy Rivers Wairora Committee with the learnings of what worked for everybody and what kind of made things a bit more challenging for us all. So it was always envisaged this is a place we get to. So I think this recommendation is helpful. I would note that it will come from this committee. One of the things I learned that Healthy Rivers Wairora is lining up all the other committees to make similar recommendations to feed in to that to go before council. So that might be a process that we need to go through, but that is not unusual, and that will probably need good 2 to 3 months of conversations to frame the committee up, I think.
But I could ask, are we looking to talk about re-establishing the Health Rivers Way Order, or to look at establishing the Freshwater Committee? But it's a larger question, including others who aren't in the room, isn't it? But so I think even if we signal the intent for the concept, that leaves it more open to have that flow in, unless there's the strong feeling that it should be one or the other. But I know Tipper's got a hand up.
Well, before that, I was just going to suggest that we note what we have said, which is we note that that we would like to see co-governance and co-management established akin to what was adopted for the Healthy Rivers Plan change. So I guess that's the context setter, and that can be a resolution. And then I guess what follows that is open for discussion. Tipper.
No, just trying to catch up with the kōrero, but I think if we're continuing the work, I'm happy to, I think we've got to decide, are we in co-governance right now? Because then we're recommending this up to council, and we can do that quite within the scope of this committee. I'm not sure why we're dilly-dallying. I will put the resolution and I'd move it. Kia ora.
From what I'm hearing, the scope of the plan change is broader than just the river. So I guess that's the first thing. So there's more involved than just the river iwi. I'm just sort of hearing what's been said. So rather than fix what the solution is, there might be a need to soften it somewhat so that the teams and all of us can work with our whanaunga to line up exactly what it might look like.
Yes.
But I guess from
I think we all hear that's what needs to happen. Yeah, it's better not to
The rest of the region is not your problem. Hey, the rest of the region is the council's problem. That area for which River Iwi are asking for, we should be able to move in this way. Unless you want to adopt the rest of the region's problem, that's my problem as a regional councillor, how I make sure that Karakia and others are still feeling on board, but that's not your problem. We're in a co-governance committee speaking about your area of interest, and this is your resolution where they should put it in a way that it can be done or enable something to be done. But Waikato, this area shouldn't wait because council needs to talk to the other two areas in our region.
Well, that was just one suggestion. I don't know, Donna may have spoken to the other river iwi around what the solution might look like. I don't know that. So I guess just wanting to capture in the resolution that that's what we want to see. We want to see co-governance, co-management, akin to what was adopted for the Healthy Rivers Plan change. So that's the first thing. So that's all clear. And then I guess in terms of the recommendation,
okay.
In terms of the recommendation, I'm happy to massage that. But I just don't want it lost that we're saying very clearly and Healthy Rivers Plan change, co-decision making, pretty much delegated authority,
Protocol. But I just don't want the co-governance arrangements that we already have to have to wait for the rest of the region. That's our issue as regional council, not yours as a JMA partner. Koe nā noi ho, kia ora.
I guess that, just to add to that, sorry, cheers. It is a settlement mechanism, and as such needs to have an optic for that. And I know there's quite a responsibilities and obligations, but I guess on my mind, sort of Councillor Mohu to say, just about the importance of, not losing sight of the commitments to the iwi setting as well. We can definitely be helpful, definitely, and like I said, the principles and the intent should be able to apply for the whole region, but I don't want to lose sight of the importance around co-governance commitments and settlements.
Tracy, did you want to make a comment?
Just through the cultures, I wasn't sure whether number one, you wanted to signal an engagement with the river iwi as well. I'm just mindful of this is coming from this this one committee on behalf of all the other four. So I just, and I believe it's on behalf of this committee, but just the recognition that there needs to be the engagement with the other four river settlement iwi as well.
Okay. So perhaps
It's just
It has been noted.
yeah, it's just a learning that came through the Healthy Rivers Waikato Committee. If one committee, oh sorry, if one river settlement iwi wanted to change the recommendation, and others were made aware of that. So whether it's noted or whether it's part of the recommendation, something to highlight.
Yeah. If anyone read into it about speaking for them in the last sentence, would address and acknowledge that.
Do we need to say that this is for the freshwater policy?
Yeah, I was wondering. Yeah.
Yes.
It would not be.
So, would you put that right up there at the beginning where it says, be established co-governance with equal membership between river iwi and the council with regard to the freshwater policy? Or,
Yeah, so that's what I thought it should look
yeah.
at.
That,
That would work too. Always have one sentence in there.
Yes.
I guess I'm thinking we maybe should adjourn.
Yeah, I agree.
And just,
I think.
yeah, let's just take a little bit of time, make sure we've got the wording in a place where we're also. All right.
Yep.
So we'll
15 minutes.
adjourn the meeting. It's 10:52.